together. Alrighty. Jesus. Okay, this is a million times more intimidating now.
Well, don't be intimidated.
No, I'm not. The other day I was thinking about getting a splitter for my tape recorder so I could have my own raw recording, but I didn't get one.
Aren't you the one who's like obsessed with like analog? Or is that someone
Yeah,
else?
magnetic tape data storage.
Yeah, okay.
That would be my username. It's a
Yeah.
hint.
Well, it's just I feel like when you search up like Radfem, it's like a couple faces, a couple icons immediately shows up and you're one of them. But then everyone has like their little quirk thing. Like
Yeah, mine is that about 12% of my content has anything to do with feminism, and the rest is just absolutely everything else.
I salute you for just putting it all in one pot.
Yeah,
I used to
thanks.
have like
I used to have multiple blogs before I got termed when I was still Cantanope. Um, but it was just so annoying to put things on different blogs, and I realized if I ever wanted to be crypto, one wrong swipe and you're done for. And I think it's genuinely good to have people surprised and when they come into contact, they follow for one thing and then they see feminism on accident, they're like, "Huh?"
yes, because to be honest, I think that's kind of how I fell into the
Y-
Tumblr sphere
Yeah.
with it. Was like I
I
was
honestly I think that you've seen the 15-year-old that's been around lately, the
that's
Russian.
so vague.
I don't
um,
know usernames. I don't
well,
know usernames.
pretend I
But
know
anyway,
what
I'm
15-year-old
pretty sure
means.
that's how she got to Radler. I mean, that doesn't have to be on the record, but I'm
I
pretty
do
sure
feel like people
drawing
do.
Sniper TF2 as a flamingo got her into radical feminism.
You managed to somehow blend together the fandom stuff with the rad.
No, I absolutely did not. I drew a man as a flamingo and she followed and now she's saying feminist things.
Oh my gosh, you indoctrinated her through fan art.
If you hurt the men bad enough, that is feminist.
I do
Okay,
think
so
it's pretty common though to do the like you get in for one thing and then you stick around and you're like, oh my god, this person who I already trusted makes sense, and because that's
yes,
actually have a couple
that's
people.
part of what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be like, "Hello, I'm a normal person with nothing to hide because I'm literally posting selfies. I'm of my ass in the pants that I sewed today with
Congrats
the
on the pants.
freaking Hank Hill ass on them because I made the legs too small."
Because I know that
Um,
with my channel, somebody came in it left a comment maybe a week or two ago that was like, "Oh, I was here for your Steven Universe review," which was like 2 years ago, I think. And I
oh,
haven't said anything since then, but I agree with all the things you've said, and I'm like, "Oh, you stuck
all
around
right,
then?"
there you
Okay.
go. So this is a terrible segue, but I think I've really been wanting to talk about how I got into radical feminism because it's absolutely the opposite of everybody else's story.
Okay, now I'm curious because I feel like there's only two routes that I know of. It's either you start hate reading and then you're like, these people make sense, or it's like you accidentally had one of your mutuals like transform and then you got transformed along
It's
with them.
well, okay. So I got into it when I was about 18. But it's not that I got into radical feminism. I just sort of peaked and then sat there. I had this beautiful, beautiful moment that I wish I could go back to where I was literally just, oh, okay, lesbianism is you could just be that and like no penis. I had that beautiful moment for like a year and a half and then I fell into radical feminism. But so what happened? Oh wow. Sorry, the moon looks really pretty. Um, what was I gonna say? Ugh, rested by the moon. Okay, so when I was um right, so when I was just barely 18, which is really funny, all things considered, because you had to be 18. Um, I was I was nominally a lib fem. I wasn't really paying attention to it. Like, I wasn't, I wasn't that into it. I was just like, oh, okay. Like, my whole idea of things didn't mesh with what it was supposed to be. Like, my idea was like, oh, a trans man. So that's like an advanced butch, you know? That was kind of my thing was like, oh, if I if I got with a trans man, I could be a lesbian, but there'd be no homophobia towards us. Like I was like thinking about this in such a ruthlessly pragmatic way that it was just kind of stupid. But eventually I think I heard something about TERFs. Like this was 2017. Um so it wasn't nearly as vicious as it is now. But I heard something bad about them, and I wanted to know like what was up with them. And I was in my head I was thinking, okay, where would I find really online, really weird women? So I went to 4chan, and there's a board on 4chan called LGBT, and I went on there and I looked around, and there was this one thread, CLG, cis lesbians general, and there was normal women in there. Like normal women. Like
They
I,
exist?
I believe the term back then was a stone Stacy, which is kind of a joke, but um then there was a sorry, what did you say?
I didn't know there was a term for a normal women, and I didn't know that normal women
No,
still really
it
existed.
was a joke term.
Still, I've never heard that one before, and to be
You've
honest,
never heard of Stone Stacy? I think it's really funny. It's like it's like a Nigel.
oh my gosh. I've
Yeah,
heard Nigel,
yeah.
but I haven't heard. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's Stacy is the equivalent of a Nigel. It's kind of funny how much like incel stuff has been turned inside out. It's like how Moid comes from femoid. Nigel is a Stacy, but man, a male Stacy is a
Okay.
Nigel. So it's just like a very normal woman.
I feel like I've never actually met any normal women anymore. They're either like
Well, I
even
mean like an old like imagine like coworkers or whatever, like older coworkers you've had. Just like really normal women who like maybe they use Facebook, but they don't use the internet other than that.
I feel like that's kind of out of my age bracket then.
Yeah, I've worked at an office where like the typical age was like 70. So there were a lot of Stacys there. Although I guess they were more of Margarets at that age. Oh right, so okay. So I wanted to see where very online vicious women might be, because the whole idea is that I always thought it's pretty easy to just sort of lurk and learn a lot about communities that you're not supposed to be in because you're not interacting, you're just reading. You're lurking. So I decided I'd lurk in, find out what the so-called TERFs were all about. And I went to CLG, Cis Lesbian General. I joined the Discord, and there was I'm trying to think how to describe it. It was like a shibboleth. What?
I'm just so you came in through 4chan,
Well,
basically.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I did not quite get there through 4chan.
I don't know. I feel like I've never actually touched 4chan before. I've seen the
Do you,
screenshots of people
do you,
being
do you know
on
what a
there, but
shibboleth is?
I do not. I was
A
gonna
shibboleth
you were talking.
a shibboleth is a way of telling where someone is from or something about the person. So like for example, if there was like a street sign with like a really hard to pronounce street on it and I asked you like what does that sign say and you couldn't pronounce it, I would know you were from out of town. That's a shibboleth.
Oh, okay.
But there's a lot I think we could do for more shibboleths being used. Shibboleths.
So it's kind of
It's a
like
hard word to say. It was the original shibboleth was the word shibboleth.
so it's kind of
Because
like when you ask people like how they order their drinks. Like if you say Coke, you're probably from the South. If you say pop or soda, you're not.
yeah, but those aren't brands.
I we,
Who just goes to a restaurant and asks for pop?
I'm just saying, like, if you refer to like any soda in the South, I'm from Georgia. You go into a restaurant and
But
you say,
yes,
"I
yes, that is absolutely a shibboleth. You're
Yeah,
absolutely right.
and then they say, "Well,
So
which one?" And then, but if I go to like
so
Maryland and I say I'd like a Coke, please, they'll just hand me a Coke, and I'll be very upset about it because I actually meant a Sprite.
okay. All right. I'm not going to get further into that because
Right.
referring to Sprite as a Coke is going to make me turn into Patrick Bateman or something. But what was I going to say? Okay, so I entered the server and there was an interview process. And it was a really interesting process. I've never seen it done in another server, but it was fascinating. It was like this, except there was an audience. A really big audience that was all muted, but they could all hear. So there were like 15 people listening. This was all lesbians, by the way. And I was asked what I thought about trans women, and I said, I mean, I didn't want to say anything, so I said I've never met one. And they were like, okay. And then they asked me my bra size.
Oh, okay.
So I thought that was a very funny way. I mean, I told them. I mean, I don't wear a bra anymore, but I think I did back then because I was 18. I think that was before I quit them. Um, but basically, once I got into there, it was like it was women's land in a very like there is no other way to put it. This was like 80 lesbians saying whatever they want, doing whatever they want. Like it wasn't about feminism. It was about lesbianism and just like it's so hard to describe how much I needed that. It was like having 80 older sisters, you know? Like, you know?
I just still find it very funny that they asked a bra size because if they asked me, I wouldn't be able to say I don't know. I haven't.
But it was I think they were just seeing if I would give an answer. But like I think that's like it was not a space that was radical feminist or really all that feminist at all. It it was a casual space. It was like a dive bar. It was like a lesbian bar, you know? Like it man, like I've been thinking about this, now I realize I don't know how to describe it, but it was just it gave me the space to decompress and to just throw off all of these rules about what I could and couldn't say. And, that lesbianism meant you had to be perfect and pure and a feminist and everything. It allowed me to completely separate lesbianism from feminism and to be both separately, you know? It, like, man, I'm having a hard time explaining it.
It kind of sounds like an online version of like a lesbian festival.
Yes, but it was always there for me. It was really always. There was always someone online. There, I mean, a Discord with 80 people in it, that is a lot of people. To have them all be verified lesbians, for lack of a better word, and to all have this, sense of community. They made fun of me a lot, but they made fun of each other too. Whenever I misspelled, one time, like I said, like, oh, like I was talking to someone, they said something about not liking subtitles, and I said, oh, are you illiterate or something? But I misspelled illiterate, and that got pinned in the main chat for such a long time. Because I mean, I misspelled the word illiterate. That's really ironic. But yeah, they made fun of me a lot. It was really just so different, and I feel like that kind of space is missing right now. The room for especially lesbians who are in like their late teens, early 20s, or just in general, lesbians to have that kind of freedom, that kind of space where there is nothing that you can't say, you know? There's nothing that you can't do. There's just no limits. And that kind of space isn't really there anymore because we're being closed in so much. I wrote like an essay a while back where it's basically like imagine if the only people who acknowledged poor people exist were communists and nobody else acknowledged it. That's the kind of space radical feminism is in right now, where so many people are being pushed into it that aren't wouldn't be here unless there was nowhere else to go. I feel like there's a word for that, like when was a political orphan, something like that. But I don't know, it's just sort of like missing to some extent is those casual lesbian spaces that there were.
I was talking with someone last week.
Oh my god, I forgot to talk about how I got to radical feminism from there.
It's okay. We don't have to follow a path in this. I just
I'm honestly not even fucking remembering. Oh, sorry. Am I allowed to say fuck?
it's okay. I'm not gonna. It's fine. Um,
Like is it gonna like get air horned?
I get $9 a month from this channel. I'm not worried about monetization. Don't worry about it.
Whew! High roller.
I was just gonna say that I
Wow.
have noticed
Getting
that
iced up.
common thing to complain about. Like all of us are having a hard time with. There's not really any lesbian spaces anymore. You can't go to
Yeah.
like a bar or a
I mean,
meeting.
I was talking to someone, well, talking to them. I was posting back and forth with someone that used to be a moderator on an offshoot of 4chan that was used primarily by women. Because it was used for hosting fan fiction, it was used primarily by women. And she was talking about how, some corners of the site, bunch of lesbians, and that it became a very close community. And it's just those kind of things don't happen anymore. Because being a sorry, what were you talking about? I'm sorry.
No, I just.
Can you tell I'm a morning person?
It's okay. I'm sorry to drag you out past your bedtime. I'm a night shifter.
Literally, you have.
I work night
Literally, I
shift
go to
time, so I'm used to being up way later. And all these I've
I
talked
get
about
up at
the
6 in the morning.
oh god, that sounds awful.
It's nice. That's the only time there's any godforsaken quiet in this house.
If
Although
you
my
just
parents
wait
are
until 3 a.m., there's quiet then.
yeah, but like I used to do that and it's not good for your body to be getting 3. Well, I would be going to sleep at 3 and waking up at 6 still. So that wasn't super good for my body.
See, and that's why I stuck with a lot of night shift stuff, and pretty much anything I do during the day is afternoon, which is why.
Sorry, can you hear this noise?
No, it's fine.
Okay, good. I'm jangling something just because for no reason.
So don't worry about it. I know that we're.
I'm iced up. I have my plain steel necklace that I got for like $10. Iced up.
I was just pointing out that a lot of lesbians that I've talked to have mentioned just a lack of having lesbian only spaces or even women only spaces. Like any kind of
Yes.
separatist spaces are hard to find. And
And it feels suffocating because it's not like quite academic, but it's like it is a highly political and politicized space, and that can get exhausting because I mean, I have thought about making a side blog just to say shit that I know people wouldn't agree with, but then, like, I didn't make the side blog. I just went on 4chan to talk about it.
I mean, do you think that being a lesbian is inherently a political position just because of
No, of course not. It's a sexual orientation.
do you think that it's inherently politicized because of being a minority?
I don't really know what politicized means.
Well, well, what I mean is,
Sorry. Do you mean like people make it political?
I do. I mean, people tend to make
Then
it's
how
almost
does
argument.
inherent fit with that?
I suppose it's just the way it's portrayed is what I mean. Is that whenever like I'm black and I'm a lesbian and I have a disability, and whenever like that's just a part of life. That's just my reality.
Yeah, I also have a disability.
So you know how it is when you bring up any of these things, like if I mention, oh, I'm having an annoying time with carrying insulin around in this weather, all of a sudden it's a political issue to talk about
Yeah.
that
When
part.
I talk about public transit, because I can't see well enough to drive, people have a shit fit whenever I talk about prioritizing it over cars because they want to be able to go to Taco Bell at 2 in the morning. Well, I just want to be able to like go to work.
And like
That's
in
it.
that vein, like with being a lesbian, I feel like just saying I'm a lesbian inherently seems to invite debate. Like you can't
Yeah.
just go into a space and be like, I am sexually attracted to other women. And
Well, I feel like there was a time. It was a very brief time, and maybe I'm just imagining it, but I don't think so. There was a time when it was basically possible to just be a lesbian and that was just it. Like, I feel like right after gay marriage, there was a brief moment where that was possible. Like, do you remember that?
I was
Wait, how old are you?
14 when I was 14 when gay marriage happened.
Yeah, I think I was old. Oh, I was 16 when it happened. So, yeah, do you like remember that kind of where it was just like, oh, lesbians exist?
I'm from the deep south, so it was never we never really reached that, I don't know, kind of
Yeah.
nonchalance about it. But when I
Yeah.
have talked
Funnily
about
enough, we never reached it up here either. I mean, I meant online.
oh, I wasn't
'Cause I
talking
mean
online, that was
in real life, the level of I mean, I came out at a ridiculously young age. I came out when I was like 11 years old because this is gonna sound utterly insane, but I basically thought that I was gonna become a danger to people and I wanted them to know so that they would stay away from me. And I came out for that reason. I My only frame of reference for what being attracted to women meant was the horrific things that male classmates were saying in middle school, things they'd seen in porn and the horrible things they would say. So I thought that I was going to turn into that kind of horrible person. Um, so that was why I came out. I thought it was basically like it was some kind of degenerative disease. So, it's a pretty weird reason to come out. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone else come out for that reason, but, my pants got tied to the ceiling. Um,
well, it just sounds
af
to me like a sort of internalized homophobia when it comes to like
well, it almost wasn't homophobia. I really was not savvy when I was, like, 11 years old. I really didn't know what it meant to be gay. I just knew what it meant to be attracted to girls was I couldn't separate that from being a boy. I didn't think I was a boy, but, like, I thought, like, I might one day turn into one, like, unwillingly, like like a werewolf kinda thing, like a monster. Because I already saw boys as very monstrous. They were, monstrous. So it was, like, just this idea of becoming the very thing that you hate and fear and being so afraid of that. Um, and I was, treated like that, like I was some kinda wolf in sheep's clothing. Um, so that was certainly, an experience. It was a very, very small middle school. Um
see when I was in middle school, I think I had one friend who came out as bi, and my
oh,
parents
and sorry.
were
Oh, sorry.
I
I remembered something else that was kinda pertinent.
oh, go ahead, go ahead.
The vision disability that I have when I was a kid, I had a it's called ciliary muscle spasms or spasm of accommodation. I get these sort of maybe a couple dozen times a day, so like 20, 30 times a day. I sort of go kind of blind for like 10 seconds. When I was a kid, I just sort of would like open my eyes really wide because I was trying to see. You know, like That's So Raven, like that kind of face.
Right.
And I would do that like at random, and people said that I looked like I was possessed. So that also made people more afraid of me, that I was this weird girl who's like a lesbian and also looks demonically possessed and like is freaky. And it all that sort of wrapped together, the being monstrous, feeling monstrous, and people telling me that I looked like Satan, you know. So those two things that didn't help, you know.
I
Yeah.
just kind of think that so when I was in middle school, I had a friend who came out as bi, but my dad was and still is deeply homophobic. So my first thought was, "Oh, that's horrible. You're not supposed to do that." And that same year, I realized I had a crush on that girl, but I didn't have a framework to be able to say that this is what a crush is. This is what, because I just assumed that all like women would pick the least repulsive man who
Me
offers.
too. Me too. I had this idea that I was going to find one that was in a coma and marry him. I have always been so pragmatic. My idea was literally I'm going to find a guy that's in a coma cuz obviously I have to get married at some point. If he's in a coma, I won't have to touch him. And I'll be married, and then I won't have to like date or anything. I won't even have to go on a date. He's already in a I literally this is going to be so horrible. I would literally for a brief time I tried to find like a guy that was like as ill as possible. Sorry. I found this guy. I won't go into his disabilities, but I tried to find like a really the weakest male available so that he wouldn't try anything. Oh my god, I was very pragmatic
I
about
was
everything.
too, and like for the longest, I assumed that it was just this boy will give me cookies at lunch, and he's not completely repulsive all the time. So I guess that's how you pick a crush.
Literally.
All women did that
Literally.
because so many men were like with these beautiful, beautiful women, and the men were like disgusting, like roach creatures
Yes.
crawled out from under a rock. And I just like, why else would you choose to be with this guy unless there was like some kind of benefit?
Yeah, I always thought it was like money, you know?
And so like for the
That's what I
longest,
thought.
like I just didn't.
And I mean back in the day it kind of was, but
I mean, to an extent, people do choose their partners, but a lot of women do choose based off of the security that men may offer. That is a part of life. But like when I was younger, I didn't realize that people felt attraction and like attraction played a role.
yeah.
And then one day I felt
Yeah.
attraction to a girl, and I was like, oh shit,
Yeah.
this is what.
Oh god, yeah.
And like
And it's just like, "Oh no.
it was such a
Damn
weird
it."
thing to like look back and be like all the times that I was like unfairly like jealous of friends who were talking to other boys. Like that wasn't just me wanting to be their
Yeah.
friend really bad. That was that was homosexual behavior.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's funny because just like moving on from that, my dad is Catholic. He has a lot of ideas on me being gay. And when I was growing up,
I was actually raised Catholic.
oh, see, you know the fun of religion.
Yeah. I actually dropped out right before I would have been confirmed, but it had nothing to do with being gay. It was 'cause I was just like, "This doesn't seem true," and it would be mean to lie. I didn't wanna lie and said I believed in it when I didn't, so I just sort of dropped out. It was literally that simple.
My
My mom was
parents
like, "What
were
the hell?"
My parents were always the faux religious type, where it was like we go to church on Sundays sometimes, and then we do the religious things, but they never really brought up
It's
religion or
saying
what it
grace, but
was.
not like Yeah.
They bring it up when it came to the gay thing though, because I remember growing up,
Hmm.
my parents didn't let me have sleepovers with my female friends because they were like, "Oh, we don't want you to be a predator towards them. We don't want you to do things to them." And
Jeez.
that's something that like,
So they must have clocked you pretty young at the
oh, I
if
came
that
out
was
at like
there.
12.
Oh, wow. Same.
Yeah, so what happened was I kept
Yeah.
asking my mom, "Would you still love me if I was gay?" This is after this crisis, after I realized I had a crush on the girl, and I was going through this
What
crisis of like, "Oh my God, am I actually gay? My parents don't like
so
it."
what did she say?
And I kept asking, and she was like, "Well, are you gay?" Now I can't lie for shit to my mom. I can.
Me either.
so, so I looked up. I didn't say anything, and she's like, "Oh, okay. Well, we have to tell your dad." And I was like, "I don't want to do that. I'd rather just you know it, and then we not tell anybody else." And she was like, "No, no, your father will be fine. If you don't tell him, I will." And so she kind of bullied me into telling him, and I was like, I don't want to do this because I know that he's not going to like it. And he was not happy when I told him, obviously. If I could
Mm.
have kept myself in the closet longer, I would have. I was just too stupid to realize asking your mother if she would love you if you were gay repeatedly for like a solid week probably means that you're gay.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll do it. Um, have you ever oh wait, no, you're not from New York. I was gonna ask if you'd been to the New York Dyke March, but do you know about that video from the New York Dyke March?
Which one?
The one where they're screaming at me?
At you. You're in the video.
At me. Well, I'm in the first frame of the video before I run away.
Oh.
It's the one where they're screaming "Turf's not welcome" for a solid, like, 45 seconds.
Okay, okay.
Would you like to know what preceded that video?
I would like to know.
Someone asked point now let me back up. I had a plan that I was gonna say that I was from somewhere else, somewhere really rural because I don't know, I was stupid. Um, that had not heard about any of the shit that had been going down. Had not heard of trans people. That was gonna be my alibi was that I was gonna pretend to be a normie. I was gonna pretend to be a Stone Stacy, you know, that didn't know anything about what was going on. Um, and then someone asked me point blank, "Are you a TERF?" And I said, "Yes." And that's what preceded that video. I don't know why I said yes. I just can't lie for shit.
Okay, I can lie to other people, just not my mom. You just have. Oh, are you a TERF? Yes.
Yeah. I like nodded really exaggeratedly too. I was holding the Labrys flag.
See, my
And
plan
that's
for
how I got the entire Radblur group kicked out of Dyke March 2019.
I still find it okay.
Yeah.
Though.
Nobody went with me ever since.
We haven't had Pride down here since 2019 because of COVID. I think this year it's in October. I plan on moving in
Yeah.
October, so I don't know
I
if
went
I'll be able
to
to
I went
go.
to Pride this year.
Was it good?
I'd only ever been to the Dyke March before, so it was such a big difference because Pride is a parade and you're not allowed in the street. In the Dyke March, you're in the street, you are the parade, but with Pride, you're just watching it, so it was very weird and different. It was like a little bit more boring because you weren't, marching, couldn't go around and talk to people. So that was a little bit disappointing.
I think ours is different then because I've only been to the one because COVID happened immediately after. But when I went to Pride back in 2019, they had there was the parade, but I didn't go to that because I don't have the patience for actual parades. I can't sit
Eh,
through them.
God, I had to stand on like there's there's weird architecture in the city, and I managed to stand on like the side of a wall in a weird way in order to see over everyone's head. I'm like 5'2".
Oh, same. That's.
No, that's your height as well.
Are you
Are
sure
you
we're not
me?
twins?
Are you me? What's the word? Kismet. Kindred flames.
So
Hot lesbians nowhere near your area.
that's how it always works, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh my god, when I was speaking bringing it back a little bit to the just picking someone that's not repulsive, I kinda did that with a girl in high school, 'cause I would literally introduce myself by just saying, "Are you gay?" That's how I would introduce myself to women. I was at a very large high school. After that very small middle school that was, like, maybe 200 kids, the high school was maybe 3,000. So, you see someone once, you're never gonna see see them again, you know? So, I eventually, like, found a girl that did not say no immediately. She, like, hemmed and hawed because she had one of those weird identities, you know? So I was like, "Okay, fine, you'll do." That was literally the kind of attitude I had towards her, by the way. I am ruthlessly pragmatic. I was just like, "Hmm, I should probably have a girlfriend," and then I had a girlfriend. And then I found out like, the weird thing is that this was way before COVID. This was 2016, 2017. She was she was, like, I guess, an influencer, like, not she did mask modeling, like, face masks, like, cloth masks.
Well,
Like, I I don't
like for
I don't know how you get into that business, I never asked, but,
that's very
um,
specific.
it's very, very specific. Um, she was also, like, really short. She was black. She was, like, 4'6" or something, like, really short. I almost just said how big. Alright, moving on. Moving on.
Well, I was just gonna say that going to Pride, like we have like the actual parade, but there's also just a lot of stands and a lot of just like businesses showing that they're not homophobic, which I really was hoping to find like a regional dykes on bikes or a book club or something to join, and there was none of that. It was all like
Yeah.
a
Oh,
singular church that was like we don't hate gay people, a Buddhist church, and then a bunch of companies. And I was thinking about going
yeah.
back to
Nothing for lesbians.
there was never any lesbian groups. There's a bunch of gay men groups, a bunch of gay sex clubs. There's never anything for lesbians. But
Why can't there be honestly, this is gonna be, like, coming back to the, like, things you can't say on Radblur. When I went to the Dyke March in 2021, I think? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it was I think it was 2021. One of the things I saw was one woman flogging another woman, and I was like, "Huh, okay." My take is that it's okay for gay couples. You know, straight couples can't be trusted with fucking anything. Uh, especially not each other, you know? But gay people, I feel like, you know what? 'Cause I mean, you know how straight people are, they're not the sharpest. They're and then the men, like, there's no symmetry in a straight, like, you got homunculus Bigfoot and then, like, victim, you know? That's what you get in any straight couple. Most of them, all of them. But, like, I saw, like, this, and I was just like, "Okay, she seems into it, and, the other woman seems into it. Guess it's alright then." Like, I just face to face saw that, like, they were just doing that in the street, you know?
that's something that like I have my criticisms of BDSM in general, and I do also criticize
Yeah.
the kind of the way that
Oh,
Pride's gotten really sexual over the years to the
I
point.
feel like it's gone in the opposite direction lately, but go on.
Well, at least from where I've been, I you do see men in like leather harnesses, and I have seen like when I was there, it was leather harness guys, drag queens doing shows, a lot of straight tourists, and a lot of corporate stuff. I didn't actually meet any other lesbians, certainly none in my area,
Yeah.
and I don't know, there wasn't any real sense of community. I just really felt really uncomfortable, like a circus. It felt like a big circus.
I could see
We
that.
had a Kesha
I could see
concert
that.
there actually, so I really felt like having her perform ruined any sense of community that could have been because you just had people who were coming because there was Kesha.
Yeah,
And so when I go
yeah.
this year, I'm still on the fence about it. But
Kinda
if I do
wish I
go,
could yeah.
if I do go, I want to get a T-shirt that's like vaguely turfy, so that people like the Labrys, or like a shirt that says vegetarian, or something that refers.
Yes, yes, there were a lot of shirts like that at the Dyke March. I have this one picture that I really like where it shows, like a really a young woman who's, like, under 25 where it says, like, I don't it says something about, like, pussy, and then there's this, much older woman who's maybe in her early 60s where it says clit club, where it's like I like it 'cause it shows, like, generations in one picture. But yeah, it's definitely I feel like it could use some more, like, women sexualization. Not to be the most horrendously stereotypical lesbian ever to exist, but I think more sexy ladies would be nice instead of horrific men.
I would just like to be able to visibly show that I am actually gay because whenever I talk to people, especially like I live close-ish to Atlanta, I know the dating scene around here. Even just making friends, I don't have the patience to be friends with people who have like the DNI
A
list of
gender
people.
identity.
Yeah, I don't have the patience because I do think people, if you talk to them enough and you can break through, if you avoid using like those trigger words that immediately make them like, oh my god, turf and shut down. If you can explain the concepts without using those words, they will agree with you. I just don't have the
I have a
time.
very hard time doing that
It's not
'cause
fun to like to just I don't know, deconstruct that idea in these people's heads. Like with us friends
yeah. No,
who already
it's not
know.
fun at all. My sister, kind of is estranged because of that.
You know, it's one
She
thing to
doesn't
put in the effort with family or like people who are already close friends. Because I did convince
yeah, I've actually now that I think of it, I've tried deconstructing it to the very core basis. She basically does not think homophobia is real.
her. Oh, fun.
She lived in Alabama, and I yeah, I don't wanna really get into that because 'cause I'll get very off sidetracked, and it's very sad. But, yeah. What were we talking about? Oh, right, sexualization and lack thereof.
Well,
Or
it's
lack
just something
thereof.
that's interesting to me.
My
The
lack
community in general being.
my lack of pussy. My severe lack of pussy. At one point, my Tinder bio was allergic to dogs addicted to pussy, but the thing is, A, I'm not allergic to dogs. B, I've never, you know I'm actually just very afraid of dogs.
Oh,
Like, I don't like, I see, like, a chihuahua or something, and I wind up a tree like a cat. It's I don't know what the hell. I've never been bit by one or anything. It's just a weird phobia. Pictures of them are fine and, like, whatever, but being around a dog, the smaller, it's worse. Worse. Don't know what it is.
well, just something I've noticed
Right.
is just this lack of. It's really hard to find other lesbians, put it like that. Either anyone who identifies as queer. I've met so many, like my old college, the whole group of like the queer kids, the gay kids, they identified as vaguely queer, but they all had
Oh, yeah.
boyfriends. And then there was
They all had what?
they all,
Oh, they all had boyfriends,
every
yeah.
single one was partnered with
Yeah.
a dude.
Were you in GSA?
Um, they had a different name for it, but yeah, I
Yeah.
accidentally dated the president of the gay club. I didn't know she was the president until like the like second date.
Wow, so that made you the first lady.
I definitely would have avoided dating anyone in a club for it. But
Oh god, I was that's unlocking memories of when some trans man started handing out CDs and I tried to hand it back and she said, like please give it to someone you think will like it. So I gave it to the person next to me. And I didn't even look to see who was next to me. It was like someone who already had one. Because it was like, oh, I made this CD while my voice was changing. Sorry, I shouldn't be talking like this. Sorry. I shouldn't be poking fun.
Oh, it's just something that I also
But it's
just
just I
noticed
feel like
that
we're missing this very crass. We're missing the dive bars of lesbianism is what we're missing. Is a space to completely let everything, air out and like not have to worry about being politically correct. Cuz there are things where it's just like I don't want to like deal with this, And like I've caught myself once in a while having the kinds of thoughts that I had when I was like Catholic, which is bad, you know? Where it's like, I shouldn't even thinking about this or that is like wrong. Whereas I'm a strong proponent of thoughts are never really an issue. Thoughts never make you a bad person.
I do think that every minority group needs a space of their own to talk freely because every group is going to have
Yes.
like some gripes or complaints.
Sometimes I'm tired of being virtuous.
Yeah, like you want to just speak openly sometimes, and
Yeah.
it's fine to understand that, like not everything is for everyone to overhear. That goes for being disabled. Like there are certain things that just I'd rather not have to break down and explain to every single person. I'd rather just be able to talk openly and have people get
Yeah.
it. And or even with
Yeah.
like with race and especially so sexuality, it's important to. I mean, bi women are our
Yeah.
allies. Women in general are our allies, and I'll always stand with women. But sometimes it would be nice to just have like a space just for lesbians who kind of get it. Like I feel
Yeah.
like
And I mean, like, for example,
conversation.
that interview where one of the questions, the second question was literally, "What's your bra size?" That is such a good icebreaker and such a good succinct way of saying this is a lesbian space. This is a vulgar space, for lack of a better word. Wow, I burped. That was a great time to do that. It's a vulgar burp space where it's just like, yeah, you know. The only reason nothing happened, was that I was by far the youngest. I was 18 and the average age was, mid-20s. But,
The struggle
you
of
know,
being young.
what? Yes, the struggle of being young and gorgeous and a genius and right all the time. It's sad, but I have to do it.
But really, with
But
dating being a major issue, is even just being able to make friends. Even
God, I don't think I've even dated since the beginning of the pandemic. I have not been on a date since then.
oh,
Ugh.
I wish I was you. I've been on. I've lost count. I mean, I've been on at least 60 or 70 disastrous first dates. Had many
Like, but I
people
also
older.
don't think I've hung out with anyone.
Why are you in New York? No one's ever in my state. See,
I am out in the absolute dead center of Long Island, where there is nothing except 6-lane highways and pine trees. Except they call them 3-lane highways because to them it's only three, but if you're running across it, you have to run across six. So
we just need to have like a women's land where we can all just be in one place for once because
honestly, I think an apartment building would be a nice women's land because then, you could come and go.
if we just buy like
Because honestly, I
if you just
don't
buy
want
like
to
a whole
be
little
used.
island.
No, 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 absolutely not. No, I want one apartment building in New York City to be all women, just one, and then you could leave and come and go from the regular world to women only, and you could live mostly a normal life, but always feel safe when you go home. You know, that's what I would like. Plus, I don't ever want to use a composting toilet. I don't ever even want to see one.
You're not that bad.
I don't I am not interested in and let me just call it hippie shitting. Sorry.
I spent way too long researching tiny homes and like RV living, so I kind of got used
Oh god, I heard that they smell so bad when you take a shit.
to.
I remember there was someone that like talked about living in a really tiny one and how like she took a shit so bad they couldn't sleep in there. Sorry. Sorry. Oh.
Just trying to figure out like we could have a women's land that has regular plumbing. I think we could do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like women's land, I feel like women's spaces, honestly, bars, bathrooms, book clubs, boobs.
I think it would be nice to have have like a lesbian festival again. Not just like women's festivals, but like a lesbian festival. Like I
Yes.
know that we kind of
Yes.
lost that. I know that I think that they were working on like a revival, but it'd be really nice for that to be more
Yeah.
common also. 'Cause one thing about the States is we're so far apart, we're so wide. I kind of envy Europe for
Yeah.
that because like if you're in Germany, you could
Oh yeah,
get
there
across the
everyone
country
is
so
everything
quickly.
is so close together.
Yeah, it's like even if you
For such a I've been trying to move for a long time, but like none of them will take me.
Oh, I'm moving
The
for
same.
sure. I figured out
Which one? Where are you moving?
Czechia.
Really?
I was in Prague this
Why
summer
why that one?
and for a study abroad, and I loved it.
What language
They
do
speak
you speak?
Czech there, but in the city in
Do
Prague,
you speak it?
most people speak English, so I can get away with not knowing the language too well yet.
That's really impressive. I've been wanting to move to England because I can't speak German.
See, that's what I used to think is that I have to like my only choices are like Canada, Australia, or England, but
God, Canada just
I don't want to go
I
there.
keep having this idea in my head where it's like Canada thinks it's the coolest kid on the short bus, you know?
That's a good way of
It's
putting
it's
it.
n it's not a good place to live. It just has a couple of it has a little bit of its shit more together than the US does, but only for a couple of things, and it's cold, you know? Some sins cannot be forgiven, like being cold.
That and Canada has
Mm.
gone backwards a lot in women's rights recently. I
Yeah.
just
Oh,
that
absolutely.
I would be arrested for saying mean things on the internet, so it's not
Yeah.
not worth it.
That's true. That's true. The other thing about England is that they are definitely moving in the right direction on this whole thing, which is nice to see.
However,
Been following it.
also the money trans like I'm in college still, so I'm trying to figure out a place to live that'll be easier to finish up undergrad and then go to grad school. And Czechia is an affordable place to live, especially as a student. And
Hmm.
I also just
Yeah. I didn't go to college. I'm actually hoping to go to barbering school in the near future. 6-month course, become a barber.
well, it's a hell of a
So
lot
that
less
seems like
time
a
than for college, which
well, it's do you want to guess how expensive it is?
6,000.
Damn, that's yes. Yes, that is exactly how much it costs. What the hell? What the fuck? How'd you know
I'm a
that?
mind reader.
Jesus. Oh, because I said 6 months. That's why.
Well, I just assumed 6.
Yeah, yeah, it's $1,000 a month, which still to me that is so much money to drop on something that like, like what if it doesn't work? You know. I mean, thankfully from my last job, I actually have enough to cover it in cash without debt, which is, I'm living with my parents, so hopefully. I mean, hopefully it works out, but I mean, there's so much paperwork. I have to get the ability to use the short bus again to get to school, and then this. It's a lot of steps, but you know that.
At least you
Right.
can
So back to
plan.
back to radical feminism, which is what this was supposed to be about at some point. Um, yeah. I just have this feeling like we're providing almost the last space, you know, that's just for women. And it's getting a little bit untenable.
What do you mean?
It's it's difficult to, you know, trying to figure out what I even mean. It's like I when going back to saying like if the only people that acknowledged poor people exist were communists, that would make it kind of awkward to be a communist, you know? Cuz, you know, every other every poor person from every possible ideology is suddenly flocking towards communist forums and whatever, even when they're not communist, because they're the only ones that, are acknowledging reality. And I mean, radical feminism is great, but it's not for everybody. I don't think there's any one political thing because it is, feminism is political. I just feel like it's there should be space for women to have different beliefs. Like trying to figure out how to put this in a way that doesn't sound absolutely batshit insane. So there's an election that is either going on or recently went on in France, where the far right party, the head of the far right party, is a woman, and that's to me that's insane. But over there, apparently that's normal. Like women are just able to do that over there. I guess I don't know how. I don't understand why, but it's there is enough political latitude, political width that they have access to that they can just do that. Whereas, in certain spaces, the only areas open to women are areas that are already pretty academic in terms of feminism. Like you know, it's not base level stuff. It's getting into like pretty confusing stuff for someone who's very new to feminism. I feel like basic feminism has kind of died, and that's really, really bad.
Well, I think
Sorry.
what actually is feminism is working towards women's liberation, and liberal feminism is
Right,
instead just rebranding of it's accepting the patriarchy as it is and trying to claim that it's fine because you accept it.
right. I mean, by basic feminism, I mean things like the wage gap, things like abortion, things that don't necessarily bust open society for better or worse. Things that are just things that are aiming to make life as a woman more bearable by materially improving the current life of women by degrees, by baby steps. I feel like that kind of thing is has just disappeared. And that's really bad because it means that anyone that was like mildly into that is just no longer a feminist, and anyone either they're no longer a feminist or they're sort of floating around in this weird purgatory where they're like sort of yelled at from both sides. I know that sounds weird, but I mean, I don't know.
A little bit too radical to be accepted by the lib.
It's like they're called radical, but they're not. It's like they're basically if you had the same beliefs that you did when you were like 10 where it's like, yeah, girls could be whatever they want, like that kind of like incredibly basic feminism, where it's like, being a girl could be a scientist, that kind of incredibly basic feminism where it's like they're not radical, but like people will like call them, a misogynist slur, you know. Like they where I still don't completely understand what happened. Like, and I guess it was the trans thing, but I mean just this almost organized backlash against feminism, and it's just ugh.
Well, that happens after every wave of progress. There is always a pushback.
Right, right, but what progress immediately other than gay marriage, what I mean, that's not even feminist. What preceded the third wave of feminism ending?
I think it was.
Because I feel like it is well and truly over, the third wave. Because that was definitely pussy hats.
Well, I'd say it's hard to pinpoint because we never really had any strong goals for feminism in the third wave. It was more of addressing societal ills. It was, let's talk about what consent really is. Let's call out sexual abusers, that kind of thing.
It was
But
sex. It was sexual liberation.
none of that,
That's probably what it
none of
was.
that really made, excuse me, none of that really made any long-lasting changes, though. That's the only.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like it was nipped in the bud. It was really cut very short. Either it was cut very short or it's died a very long death. Like, just sort of doing not like being in a coma. Like maybe it's not dead, but it's absolutely in a coma. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember anything more about. I've really been. I don't want to say obsessed, but I've been so interested in women's online spaces outside of a feminist thing because it's just so fascinating to see the level of confidence, the manner of speaking being completely different. Um, it's just really fascinating to me, and I know this just sounds weird, but I just really miss, you know, women's spaces, like female spaces that don't have to be explicitly radically feminist. I'm not like against radical feminism. It's just I'm exhausted. I'm really exhausted. And do you know, like, have you heard about the book club that's going to happen? I know you can't come because you're too far, but have you heard?
No, I haven't.
Oh, well, on in a couple of days, there's going to be a book club in New York City, so I'm actually going to be able to hang out with people in person for the first time in like 3 years. Except I have to do this reading, le- uh, lesbian ethics towards new value. And I hate this book so much. It's literally horrific. It's awful. It's not like, it's not like evil or something. It's just really like academic. And it makes me want to cry, but it's like I have to do this homework to have friends.
I mean, you could always go and just not make comments
No,
about
I
art.
can't. No, I can't. I can't lie. You know I can't lie. Would I lie about that? Hmm. But
Well,
like sorry, that was, you know,
maybe you should try.
I could rip off the Band-Aid a lot, but like I could rip it off like like an atomic bomb. But like that's where I'm at right now. I just wish we could go back. I wish I didn't have to be in this in general. Because, like, I agree with all of it. I don't want to have to care about this shit, you know? I mean, I have to care, but it's exhausting and it's painful and it's, you know, being told that you're evil all the time. And if anyone finds out what you are, oh man. And for what? Because I'm gay? Yes, because I'm gay. And it's so much worse than it was when I was a kid. It was bad enough when I was a kid.
I feel like going
When,
back then, at least people admitted that there was homophobia, that there was an issue. You try to
yes,
point it out.
yes, they admitted that they were afraid of me because they didn't want someone attracted to girls in their locker room, and that to me made sense. That, homophobia or not, whether or not I really was dangerous was moot. They had a reason. That reason made some amount of sense. Boys don't belong in the locker room. Boys like girls. A girl that likes girls shouldn't be in the locker room. It had a consistent logic to it, even though it was homophobic. Nowadays, there is nothing. It's like I can't remember. There was like some where if you keep giving an animal absolutely random punishment and rewards, it basically the animal just goes crazy because it can't understand what's going on. And I feel like I'm in that place now where it just doesn't, I'm just going crazy. Sorry.
No, I mean, I think this is a really common feeling to have. I was speaking with an older lesbian last week, and she was also very confused about the whole everything. I mean, at least in the past, I'm not going to say that it was easier to be in a world where homosexuality was still
No, it
faced with
wasn't.
violence, but at the very least, you could find other people like you. You could at least say this is homophobia and this is wrong. And you could at least point to the problem and people would admit that it existed. Even if they thought it was a valid thing to exist, at least they admitted that it was there. And now it's
Yeah.
like you can't find anyone who actually is like you. And you say this is a
Yeah.
problem and everyone says, no, it isn't. This is progress. It's progress to tell you that you have to like people of the opposite sex or else you're a this is
Yeah.
progress.
And hearing that shit from my own sister. God. God. I just I feel like there was a moment and it's gone. It's and that hurts more. You know, to loved and have lost.